Refuse redemption. They did not
Local,
see value.
need your aid.
I watched the nomads passing with great admiration. Its life was brief and without consequence, and its struggle fueled the growth and maturation of the wise and eternal. For a flash, I felt the sadness I sought in my own, the relief that I sought.
That stretches the sanity of the mind.
Welcome, Exiles, to what is a huge improvement to the Relic of the Pact build we've been working on. I decided, you know what, defenses, layers of defense, kind of cringe. Really, the solution to this character was focusing on what it was good at, which is scaling life. You can see we now have 20k life, and on top of that, we're no longer a raider. We're actually a scion, a level 82. This character is a swap where I realized, hey, I was getting avoidance layers, I was spreading my build too thin, when really the thing I needed to focus on with this sort of character where I get so much out of scaling life is just focus on what the build is good at. Scaling that life and start wrecking some content with it. So what we did is we swapped to Scion because Scion has extra passives, which means more life. It also gives you the ability to start on other portions of the tree. I will at some point start grabbing some passives over here for some life because there's a lot of efficient life at this really early area here. And that will allow us to continue to scale this life pool up and allow us to continue scale damage. We get damage based on the amount of life we reserve with Relic of the Pact, and we get damage based on how much life we have total. Crit chance and percent spell damage. There's a lot we get from damage, or there's a lot we get from life that it just makes it so efficient to min-max into life that spreading the build in too thin and going for spell dodge and spell block really didn't make sense. Because if an enemy's already dead, it can't hurt you. I always was a big proponent of good defense is good defense, not just good offense. But in this sort of character, the way this character really builds into and strengthens up and basically maximizes into, damage really makes sense here. Because there was something I tested with the setup with Raider that hard stomped us. And that was Maven Invitations. Why did Maven Invitations brick my other character? Well, it was pretty simple. Maven has this ability to make the Guardians or whatever that Maven is enhancing, it gives them ability to put a decay on your character that lasts for 8 seconds. That means if a Guardian enhanced by Maven gets that ability and it hits you, you have now a 10-second window where you have to survive and dodge around until that thing wears off and you can begin fighting the boss again safely. Because normally, with the Solution of Flesh, you have a 2-second window where you get that 2-second window, it goes off, and then you can keep fighting again. And normally it's a pretty quick, oh, I have my life reservation, I'm going to back out real quick, and then go back in. Now, with the way this is currently, it just felt wrong. If you didn't have enough DPS to just completely bankroll the invitation, it would hard brick the encounter. And previously, because we were spreading ourselves too thin, we couldn't just bankroll the encounter. Now, we can do that. We actually have an obscene amount of DPS, and we're only level 82. This is a character that at the end of the stream, when I'm very tired, very out of it, we were actually able to take down Uber Maven. On a level 82 character, that's pretty ridiculous. And it gets a little bit crazier. So, what is one of the main changes we made besides going from Raider to Ascendant? I decided to go for a 1-tick cast rate for Relic of the Pact. Now, this is something I've decided is maybe the most optimal way to use this skill. The amount of feels good this has versus the channel up to use thing is it allows our character to remain mobile. We can do a hell of a lot of damage while remaining mobile. We can sidestep all their attacks while getting fast cast rates in to just keep popping the boss, and we can dodge a lot of mechanics that way while dealing damage. On top of that, how do you set up for this? How do you get the 1-tick rate? Well, it is a combination of Reduced Reservation Kalandra Jewel plus Essence Worm. Essence Worms gets you to 80%, and then once you start getting closer to 89, 90, yada, 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 it keeps going up. Eventually, it'll get to the point where it just makes it so your reservation cost is infinite. So you have to kind of optimize based on the support you're using. And I optimized so that way I wouldn't have to use life tap, and instead I can get a good support like Brutality and still have a really high reservation for 1 tick of Relic to the Pact. Now, how do we do this? Well, with 26 reduced reservation efficiency and 80% from our ring, we're at 106% reduced reservation efficiency. That will make it so it's an infinite amount of reserve roll, so we have to get increased reservation to balance that out. Now, optimally, if I was just trying to craft jewelry, like if you're going to do to copy this build, you want to go for a Reflection of Kalandra, difficulty 2 or difficulty 4, something around that range, because at difficulty 2, you're going to get a 1.6 multiplier, and at difficulty 4, you're going to get a 1.8 multiplier. Now, why is that important? Well, you want to hit 16% reduced reservation or 18% reduced reservation efficiency, because we're trying to dial it back to specifically 12% reduced reservation efficiency. So that way the optimal number we're hitting is a 92% reduced reservation efficiency. We're getting there. For us, we have to anoint a champion of the cause. Ultimately, if you can get a lower reduced reservation efficiency on your ring, you won't have to make this anointment, and you can put that anointment somewhere else. So with our character, we get 8% here, and then I have 3 jewels with 2% reservation efficiency. That's how we go from a 106% reduced reservation efficiency to 92. Now I'll show you the difference it makes with just 1 jewel. If I go from 92% reduced reservation efficiency to 94, we're going to go from reserving 91% per cast, and I take this out, it would want to reserve 121. And this ramps up, you can see, as you get closer to 96, 98, 100% reduced efficiency, it just keeps ramping up. So if I go over here and I take out another reservation efficiency, now all of a sudden it wants to reserve 182. And then if I go out over to these boots and I take out reduced reservation efficiency, now it wants to reserve 364. It's getting to the point that once you get to 100% reduced reservation efficiency, the way the formula works, that would make it an infinite reservation cost. So the idea is if we hit an optimal number, like 92%, we can use support gems like Brutality plus crit damage plus Second Wind to put us right at a comfy 91% reservation efficiency with our character. So that means we can 1 tick and we can just proc and proc and proc and do like that. Now, an important factor for this character that you should know is if you get hit, your life pool goes below 91%, you will no longer be able to cast this spell. That means you have to kind of dodge around for 2 seconds to keep casting it. Now, normally this doesn't happen too often because you're mostly just killing the monsters before they even get a chance to hit you. But when they do hit you, just know you just have to duck around a little bit and you can start casting again. Another thing to note is when you cast, if the enemy hits you right when you cast that skill, you'll go down to the 10% of your life pool, which for us is about roughly 1800, which means if they hit you for about 3k damage, they will one-shot you. It doesn't happen too much. For this character, I have died a total of 13 times. I just checked a little bit ago. 13 times in order to... I've just died to 1 taps or something like that. It's been, I think I died like 6 times in the campaign, 5 times in Uber Maven, and then a couple times it's happened randomly while I've been mapping. Something around that numbers. It doesn't happen too often, but it does happen. This isn't a hardcore viable build. You will randomly die, but you take it as you go because it's just such a fun, interesting build to play, and it doesn't even matter at this point because I've just been enjoying it so much. Now, I wanted to do a showcase, but I didn't want to do a showcase with this current setup because currently I have a really expensive jewel setup, which is an Unnatural Instinct and 3 Grand Spectrums with increased life. These jewels are expensive. They are 6 divines a pop for the Grand Spectrums, and the Unnatural Instinct was 16 divines. This is a large portion of the budget I have in this character, and I want to showcase that it's not necessary, that you can play this build without these jewels and you'll still have a pretty freaking good time. So what I have here is I have 2 modules, increased life, crit multi for spells. These are jewels I bought for about 5C, 5C, 10C, and 10C respectively. So I'll hover over those, and these jewels I'm going to throw into the build to showcase, hey, if you take out the expensive jewels, the build still works. That being said, my expensive pieces left over are my boots and my ring, and I will probably be going over how to craft those respectively when I make a guide for this character, because I most certainly will. I'm really happy with how this thing's turning around. It's been a lot of fun so far, but I just want to put this into perspective that this is a character that will work if you can get Relic to the Pact, if you can get a Wrathpith, if you can get a Glimpse of Chaos, a Calm's Heart, Calm Spirit. Those are the key pieces. Essence Worm, most of the key pieces are relatively affordable. Relic to the Pact is the one I think will maybe expensive item. It was 1 divine like 2 days ago. I don't know if it's gone skyrocketed up. I think it's gone up to a few divines. I haven't checked it recently. So that's kind of the key pieces you need, and you can play without expensive jewels like this. So for our showcase, I have a Minotaur, and we'll go ahead and do this real quick, give you a showcase what it looks like mapping.
Long day. One of my captors.
All right, so also I forgot to mention, we are capping our resistances basically with our Pathfinder node for Ascendant. So part of the reason we went with Ascendant is for the life scaling and for the fix our resistances without having any gear with resistance on it. We fix all of our res with res flasks that have the mod reuse at the end of flask, plus basically charge recovery or reduced charges used. And you'll see right now, this is the moment I'm talking about where we hit basically the reservation. They hit us below that 90% reservation, which meant we couldn't cast. And you'll see I just ducked out of there real quick, and I ducked back in, and I just killed the pack, and it wasn't a big deal, right? Currently, our character deals with poison and bleed basically through our boots, and then we're having the Aberrath Pantheon for burning ground and less duration of ignite. It mostly solves ignite, but it doesn't 100% work all the time for ignite, because ignite can still do something. But for the most part, you should be able to get hit with ignite and like duck out and be fine. Okay, so if we go into the boss here, he's gonna dive underground like he always does, and then we click Valrighteous Fire and we say we want to go ahead and do damage, and we just go ahead and pop him down like it's nothing. Valrighteous Fire is a great include for this build because it sacrifices the green life pool, which isn't the life pool that matters for what can kill you. You can pop that off for some nice DPS. And then we have all the same tech before with the Calm Spirit and the Rage Generation. We use a Divergent Dash just to get phasing for most of the time while we're mapping, so it feels good to walk through packs and explode and stuff like that. All that works. Clearly the build works without these jewels. We lost about 1k life and some AoE, but we got some nice damage still regardless of the jewels. And I just wanted to showcase that just to give you guys the I guess the difference of what that looks like. I obviously haven't optimized this character. There's still about at least 4 jewel sockets I'm not even using at this point. I haven't really decided what to do with them. We're obviously level 82, got a lot of levels to go, but I'll leave you guys with a POB for the build so you can see what our setup is. Sorry if you started leveling a Raider and now you have to swap to an Ascendant, but you got to trust me on this one. The Ascendant setup I have here is much, much better. The damage is multiple times better, and the feeling of the one-tap setup is just way cleaner. So that is the setup we are going for. Real quick, I'm cutting this in the video because it's important. I forgot to go over it. Eternal Youth. This is basically a get out of jail free card. I don't have to put recoup onto my ring. It works since we're pathing through here anyways, considering I think this is the most efficient way to path based on the different tree setups I've tried. And this means that we get a hell of a lot of recharge. You'll see on our defensive stat, it says we have 5,700 recharge per second. This actually never gets stopped. It never gets interrupted because of the way Dissolution of the Flesh separates damage from our actual life pool to our reserved life pool. So that means the petrified blood damage that comes through and starts degenerating our real life pool, that gets mitigated by this recharge, and it works perfectly. And that's why I can have a ring without the recoup, and it works. On the other setup, I didn't feel like the pathing was worth it. For just one ring mod, I could fix it sort of situation. But ultimately, since we're pathing right next to it, it makes the ring craft way cheaper. And this is just a better setup than the other build. And man, does it work nicely. So that was the thing I was cutting in for on this character so far, and we're going to continue to basically improve upon this, and eventually I'll be making a guide video on this character where I'll go over the crafting process for the ring and the boots, for example, and give you a good idea of how to craft those sorts of things so you can gear up this character. And yeah, as always, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Take care, Exiles. Thanks for watching. Peace out.